Good evening, everyone. We will officially call to order this joint meeting between Manvel City Council and the Planning, Development, and Zoning Commission for October 23rd, 2023 at 6 p.m. We have 5 of 7 council members present, and we have all but 1 of PD&Z present. If you'll please join me in standing and saying the pledges. Okay, so we will now step into the public hearing. I will call this public hearing, open this public hearing at 6:01 p.m. And it is to hear input from the public regarding an ordinance amending Chapter 77 zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Manvel, Texas, same being the zoning ordinance of the city by amending Article 1 in general pertaining to definitions and process of rezoning, by amending Article 2 district regulations pertaining to an exemption to minimum lot area requirements for non-conforming lots resulting from right-of-way dedication within open single-family residential district, amending fence requirements and sections pertaining to building material requirements for building facades to accurately reflect House Bill 2439, which enacted Chapter 3000 of the Texas Local Government Code, making other changes to rectify typographic errors throughout the ordinance, providing a penalty in an amount not to exceed $2,000 per day for each day of violation of any provision hereof, and providing for severability. So what we will do is I will do the first call for anybody that wishes to speak on any item pertaining to this public hearing. And if you would wish to speak, please stand and come forward to the microphone. So I will do the first call. We have Mr. Russ Bynum coming forward. Thank you for being here, Russ.
Evening, Council, Planning and Zoning. I'm kind of just reviewing this on the spot here, but I did want to make a few comments. For those that don't know me, my name is Russ Bynum. I actually don't live in Manvel, but I do develop Pomona and Valencia. So just to put that on the record. But I did have a couple of questions. So, or comments related to the fencing or the proposed fencing zoning ordinance. We're about to start construction of a fence in Valencia. That fence, from a developer fencing standpoint, or a community fence, which is kind of what it's related to in here, is going to be taller than 6 feet, mainly because if you have a 6-inch rock board, a 6-foot picket, and then a cap that's typically a 2x4 or 2x6 on top, that creates it higher than 6 feet. And let's pretend for a moment that we have to go and reconstruct that fence at some point in time, and we've got to have a licensed professional engineer design that and submit plans. That is going to be cost prohibitive, shall I say. If you're a resident within, just a typical subdivision, and you've got to go through the same process, and you want that fence to be a little bit higher than 6 feet, a little bit higher than the standard 6-foot picket, that too will be something where the homeowner is going to go, oh my gosh, fencing has already gone up in price, and now I've got to pay a licensed professional engineer to go design a 3-rail wood fence. Just seems a little onerous, perhaps on more robust fencing such as verticrete, masonry, something like that. I could see where a licensed professional engineer would get involved specifically on the footings of those posts for that fence. But I think if you're trying to regulate in some way, shape, or form wood fences, that could get cost prohibitive, and it might, people just might not build their fence, or they might put up something that is inferior, or that is not in community standards. So I just caution, as you guys begin to look at this, think about those things. Those are some things to kind of think about. And then I think just maybe some other things when you're looking at sort of the aesthetics of it. I think you also need to caution in that too. I think a lot of HOAs will have guidelines that they want everyone to abide by. But if now the residents are coming to the city instead of going through the HOA, that can get murky as well. So just a couple of things to think about. That's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bynum. I appreciate that. We will now do the second call for anybody wishing to speak for this public hearing. Yes, sir. If you could please come forward and just say your name and where you reside.
Yes, my name is Courtney Broussard. I live in Newport Lake Estates in Manvel. And forgive me, I have a couple of questions. I'm not too abreast of the permitting requirements, et cetera, with the zoning, but I do have a couple of questions. The gentleman just said a word that really stood out to me where he talked about inferior. And we're presently living in a community where we're dealing with a developer who has built an inferior fence, something that has collapsed and that has been laying on the ground now for months. There's been a number of challenges in dealing with this developer. But in fairness, I'd like to ask, with these requirements that are going to be coming out, how will that affect a legacy community like ours? And then two, I'm just really hopeful that there are potential remedies for us as homeowners in our communities when we're dealing with developers who have built inferior fencing and things of that nature. So.
Thank you, Courtney, for those comments. And if staff, if we can just make note of that as we go through this process to address those two concerns, that would be appreciated. We do have Councilman Larry Akery joining us now. Councilman, thank you for being here. He had contractors at his house that were doing some work that he was waiting for them to wrap up for the day, so appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
We will now do the third call for anybody wishing to speak for this public hearing. Anybody else? Okay. So we will close this public hearing at 6:07 p.m. And with that, I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, however many that was to 0.